My name is Monica Wilkinson Kelly. I'm the archivist at the Edith B. Ford Memorial Library in Ovid, New York. This interview is being conducted as part of the Cayuga and Seneca Lakes Agriculture and Craft Beverage Memory Project. Today is December 10th, 2021, and I am interviewing Joe Rizzo and Wendy Rizzo of Mushroom Spirits Distillery. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So thank you so much for participating in our history project.
Sure.
And I'll start with Wendy. Can you tell me a little about yourself, where you're from?
Sure. So I am from Queens, New York. Grew up there, spent most of my life in New York City. I actually went and graduated from law school, but ended up with a career in higher education. And I just quit my day job last March, and now I do the distillery and the mushrooms full time.
Wow. Where did you go to law school then?
Louisiana State University.
Oh, so you've really made several moves.
I did.
Okay.
I was young. I wanted to, travel a little bit, get out of my comfort zone. So now I'm back in my comfort zone.
Okay, so welcome back. And Joe, can you tell me about your full name, please, and your background, where you're from?
I'm Joe Rizzo. I'm from New Jersey, southern New Jersey. I went to high school down there. I joined the Navy right after high school. I served in the early 90s. Then came back, started doing farmers markets with my family's farm, and ran into Wendy. And she was right on her way to Baton Rouge. So we kind of hit it off, and we ended up getting married down there.
He followed me.
Followed her
to
down.
Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. And then, we from there we moved back to the city, taught for a little bit. Then we moved up here to the Finger Lakes, Ithaca, and started the mushroom farm, Blue Oyster Cultivation. That's when that's kind of starts where we ended up to right now.
So what was the inspiration? Why was anyone in your family in agriculture?
My sister had a farm, a large vegetable farm. I was doing markets for her in the city, doing green markets. And this was kind of during or before I met Wendy. It was always more of a kind of a science first, and then kind of the practical aspect, with the production. That's why I went to school for biology and taught botany, life science for about 8 years or so. And that's kind of, I guess, where I kind of specifically honed in on mushrooms, growing mushrooms with the students, just to kind of, it was kind of a nature of science shop classes I was doing. And mushrooms were a good way to kind of, keep their attention. They would grow double in size overnight. So it's different than growing like plants, which take a couple, 2 or 3 months really to kind of to mature, really.
Or grapes that take 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, right. They really, I guess I got hooked on them when I was teaching.
So biology and botany certainly would be a terrific foundation for growing the mushrooms, having an educational background. Some people have no background whatsoever that become winemakers, surprisingly. Right. So. Mm-hmm. And so how many mushrooms, what types of mushrooms are you inoculating? What is the process?
Yeah.
Could you go over that a little?
Well, we grow mostly indoors. Oyster mushrooms, shiitake, lion's mane, like I said. We grow everything on wood, sawdust, just kind of inoculated, steam sterilized, inoculated with the cultures of the different mushrooms. And, they just start feeding on the wood, and it's almost like just rows of artificial tree trunks, sort of, handmade tree trunks in the grow rooms. That's how we raise them.
And can you, how did you then come up with the idea of a distillery with, is it infused, correct? Can you talk through the process, either of you?
Yeah. The short story is that we have a vodka, which is basically a blank slate as far as liquor goes. It doesn't really have any taste or color. And we infuse it with different kinds of mushrooms. It takes on the flavor of each of the mushrooms. Some of them, the color a little bit too. So yeah, that's the layperson's explanation of what we do.
So you're not making the vodka yourself, is that correct?
Yeah, we're not fermenting the mushroom. Yeah, it's a New York grown corn vodka. At this point, we're partnering with another distillery nearby, another farm distillery. That's all he does is corn vodka, and we kind of let him focus on that part, and we kind of focus on the end product, really, just kind of making these unique spirits, really.
And your mushroom company has a different name, is that correct?
Yeah, Blue Oyster Cultivation. That's the mushroom farm, and that's produces all the mushrooms for the alcohol. So they're pretty intertwined, but still separate though.
Yeah.
So how many? I don't really have a sense because mushrooms are lightweight. How many mushrooms are you selling? Of the various types, like could you run through the types of mushrooms that you?
Yeah, like I said, that we do several types of oyster mushrooms: blue, pink,
White,
brown, yellow oyster mushrooms. Do king oyster mushrooms. That's another, it's another related one.
Shiitake. We do a lot of shiitake.
We do piopino. We do reishi, which a lot of people make traditionally in teas. A lot of people consider it sort of a medicinal mushroom.
Lion's mane. Lion's mane is kind of all the rage right now. So
it's really becoming a delicacy. It tastes like lobster, I'm told.
Yeah, people use them to make vegan crab cakes because they have kind of the same texture and some people say a little bit of a seafood flavor. So,
wow,
yeah.
And when did you first begin, bottling? Do you have a bottling works, or you have somebody at the distillery that assists you?
We do it all right here, right on the premises. Yeah, we produce it, bottle it, put labels on. It's all still kind of a small operation, kind of a small batch, handmade kind of operation.
Yeah, I think we're kind of about to outgrow this space, though.
Yeah.
So how many cases a year did you start initially producing, and what is the?
Well, we just finished our first year. We just started in October 2020. Yeah. So we were actually just counting how many bottles we sold.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Probably between 7,000 and 8,000 bottles we did this year. So.
Wow. And you started first in Ithaca, I think I read, correct?
That's where
Caroline?
The mushroom farm is.
Okay.
Yeah. So we live over on Slaterville Road, which is close to Caroline.
All right. And this tasting room you just opened, where is that located exactly? The address?
We're here at 4055 Route 89 in Seneca Falls.
Right on the wine trail.
Okay. And can you describe some of the qualities of the vodka? How different mushrooms make the flavorings unique between bottle to bottle?
Well, I will say that Hen of the Woods is our best seller. It's actually a really neat mushroom to eat as well. It makes a great meat substitute as far as the texture goes. People seem really drawn to it as a vodka. We think it kind of tastes a little bit like a whiskey. It's got a chartreuse color. We use it in Moscow Mules and Manhattans, but it's really versatile. It also, you could do a savory drink with it. It's got like a woodsy flavor, I would say.
People drinking it straight up as well?
They do.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's flavorful enough. It holds up well to different kinds of cocktails. Like she said, we do the Manhattan with it, which is a whiskey cocktail. We do the Moscow Mule with it, which is a vodka cocktail, and we do the margarita with it, it's a tequila cocktail. Like I said, it just makes interesting versions of different classics.
Right, and this is just an extension of the Farm Winery Act. Really, what is the licensing like? As a lawyer?
Yeah. Well, it was I mean, there was a lot to do. We had to get obviously the federal permits and the state permits. We actually have a farm distillery license. And you can talk about that a little bit better than I can, I think, about.
Well, yeah, the truth is, it wasn't that bad of a process.
We hired a consultant.
Yeah, and she it was reasonably priced, and she kind of did everything, and let us focus more on kind of building what we're doing here, as opposed to just doing a bunch of paperwork that once it's done, it's kind of done and filed and all that. So that was a really good one early decision we made, I think, was to kind of hire out that process.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up with we have the federal license, we have the New York Farm Distillery license, which mostly requires, I think it's like 75% or something of the ingredients come from New York, some number like that. We do 100%, so it doesn't really matter.
So it's not like a farm winery where it has to be 100%, an estate farm winery. But you're growing all of the mushrooms yourselves.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't even.
And how many
100%.
How many mushroom distilleries are there in New York State? Is this
really only one?
Only one?
Really anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I read you travel a lot to different farmers markets that are doing really well. What is that like? I mainly do the Ithaca Farmers Market. That's where we started out. It's our local market. We have a lot of local fans and supporters, so that's great. We do New York City markets as well, mainly Union Square.
With the mushroom farm, we already had sort of this farmers market infrastructure kind of set up. We were familiar with all the different market kind of groups, like the Grow NYC, the green markets and all that, and some others. And we just kind of slid in with the distillery where the mushrooms normally were being sold. So it was kind of pretty seamless almost.
It was a smooth transition.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a lot of it's still a lot of travel, things like that. But we have the great markets down there, especially Union Square. That's our big market we do with the mushrooms and the spirits.
And what was it like with COVID? Was that
We actually did pretty well during COVID, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, we were real careful at the farmers markets. There were a lot of different protocols in place. But as far as sales, I mean, I guess it's at the expense of a lot of restaurants and things like that. And there are less people going to restaurants and everybody cooking, so they needed, fresh produce and mushrooms and vegetables. And I guess we were, that benefited us, I guess.
Yeah. We stopped doing the New York City markets for a couple months, because it got really bad down there.
Right at the heat, peak there.
But, we stuck it out at Ithaca and went back to New York City as soon as possible. And our sales actually did really well. So they increased, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. So why the new tasting room in Seneca County? Can you talk about that a little?
Well, we are right on the wine trail. We're right on Route 89. So it was a great spot. And we really lucked out with this location. It was vacant for a long time. So we just kind of were renting it and we picked it up for a really good price. And we just really built around what was already here. So
great. Well, it seems like it would be, is it fair to say, a more predictable market versus vineyards that are hit with hailstorms and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because as far as the mushrooms go,
right.
We were really able to control the production of that. And yeah, I mean, we don't grow our own corn. So we might be in a little more fragile state if we did that. But there's always, we're pretty confident.
So I was thinking of rain and drainage problems and too much rain, but in the case of mushrooms, that's a welcomed event, correct?
Yeah, especially this year. And it's just kind of a shame, so many mushrooms out in the woods. I forage a little wild stuff too. But it's been such kind of a busy first year for us here that I really haven't even had a chance to get out in the woods and enjoy it, really. All the rain,
Oh, well, great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Or any ideas?
Well, you know,
comments about
yeah,
opening a business, and any thoughts that you'd give, advice? Would you do it again? That sort of thing. It's too early to tell.
I
Yeah.
think we would.
I
I
would
would do
totally
it again,
do
but
something.
only because
At least
we
this.
know what we're doing. That it was a good transition from the mushrooms to the distillery, because we learned everything from doing the mushroom farm, and what to expect, and we made all the mistakes with that first, so that was good. I would say just really, I would advise anybody to just stick with it as long as you can if you're starting a business, because it's always slow in the beginning, and it's always a struggle to build up customers and all that. But if you stick with it, it really pays off.
Yeah.
I think that's the best lesson we learned.
It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's. You have to be honest with yourself, I think, about the level of commitment and sacrifice and work it actually takes. And like I said, you have to be honest with yourself if you're up for that, if that's what you want.
Yeah, I worked my day job, like I said, up until this past March. So I was doing that and doing the farmers markets on the weekends for many years.
Yeah, it's still kind of 7 days a week for.
When did you
ever.
start? Now, when did you start selling mushrooms? I don't know if we got an exact date.
2009.
Yeah,
2009.
Yeah, 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah, we moved up here in 2008, and then I think we started the farm in 2000. Started selling at the market in 2009.
All right, and who came up with the idea of, I think mushrooms would look really great in a vodka or as a distilled product.
Yeah. It's just when I was my last year of teaching, like I said, I did a lot of science shop classes, and one of the things I was trying to work on was biofuels with the students, which is it's essentially moonshine, really. Excuse him. It's essentially moonshine, and I was having a little bit of back and forth with the administration. They didn't really want that to happen for lots of reasons, I guess. So I was just kind of always been on the back burner of kind of my
blending, the idea
projects.
Of blending the mushrooms into distillery.
The idea with the mushrooms, at first, we were just thinking about just kind of a standard, run of the mill, just distillery, making just kind of traditional spirits. But I don't know, it just kind of grew, and that's just kind of just made a lot more sense all of a sudden to make these make it with mushrooms, since that's kind of what we do.
Okay.
It's essentially the same thing as the mushroom tinctures that you might see in health food stores. So it's not unheard of, but it's unheard of to sell it as a beverage.
They're kind of fun.
Here's a real basic question for me. What's the process? Do you soak the mushrooms?
It's essentially just them? like an extraction, an alcohol extraction, tincture. Just steeping the mushrooms, dehydrating them, just to get them a little more, intensely flavored and get more in there. I've tried using the mushrooms before it goes through the still, kind of in the fermentation process, and it makes a really nice spirit, but you would never in a million years recognize it as, from mushrooms. This method we ended up with, this tincture process, is really, I think, the best way to kind of get the flavor and the color from the mushroom. And I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Joe or Wendy?
I don't know. We're about to come out with some new interesting things. We're doing some gins and some whiskeys. So I feel like there's kind of a bright, future with mushroom spirits.
The whiskey sounds great.
Yeah.
Combination, the woodsy flavor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to participate today. And again, this is Joe, Rizzo, and Wendy. And today is December 10th, 2021. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.